of this, but what I'm going to do is post into both the chat and Slack this link. I wanted to highlight this link because this is a permanent link for you to always see what the upcoming agenda is for any upcoming call. This link also has the recordings of both the past sessions and whatever goofy preview video we happen to put out for the month on future sessions. So check out that link and save that and come back. It'll get updated as agendas move. Lots to cover. A couple highlights. Going to do tracking cloud TCO at the very end with Anthony from NBC Universal. Rob Martin's going to give a great crash course on enabling engineering action. We're going to hear from the working group that's working on GCP and multi-cloud, as well as a container one. But the main show, the main act today, is the launch of the Accurate Forecasting Working Group with some stories on that. So let's get into the content. Over to you, Tracy. Oh, Stacy first. Sorry, I got things out of order.
So we have several new members that we wanted to highlight, new practitioners that we wanted to go ahead and highlight in our call today. So I'm giving them a chance real quick to unmute their phones because hopefully they'll be able to do this real quick. But what we've been doing is in 30 seconds or less, we want to have these folks just introduce themselves and pitch how FinOps practice, how they pitch their FinOps practice to their own organization. And it's always really interesting to hear what everybody has to say. So Joan, you're going to be first, and I actually do have a timer. Let me, oops, looks like I need to reset that. Okay, so are you on, Joan? Can you hear me? Oh, I have to do the unmuting. Hold on. I just remembered that we did that. Look, Joan, I am going to unmute you.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Joan Cretshaw. I was selected at Lennar Corporation to be the FinOps evangelist for just introducing the idea of FinOps to the organization. I met with the executives and upper management, and I used the life cycle wheel of FinOps phases and the idea of the mapping of the business unit to what we deliver, which is we're the largest home building in the United States. So we map that to our annual revenue and how many homes we deliver in a year. And the executives and management, finance and governance were very intrigued with the idea of being able to present our value to the board in a different way. So if I have to say two things of focus for Lennar, it was the understanding that the crawl, walk, run idea is something that they can kind of grasp onto and get started right away, and then the identifying of the business unit. So it was really great. Thank you so much.
No problem. And by the way, we did ask Joan to go a little bit over because of what she was just doing, explaining about having to promote this within her organization. So I wasn't too strict on you there, Joan.
All right.
Colin, are you unmuted? It looks like you're unmuted.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, go for it.
Hi, I'm Colin Maynard. I work for TELUS Health. Been running the cloud platform for 2 years. The cloud platform's been around for 5. Kind of fell into FinOps already, just based on the need for like transparency and cost, cost management. We have very dedicated environments and shared environments. The great thing about the FinOps for us is it provides transparency across business units. So business, finance, and technical teams are all on the same page to provide value back to the organization.
Excellent. Colin, it sounded so great and not even rushed, and you still hit that 30 seconds, but great intro. Thank you so much for introducing yourself and how you pitch it to your own organization. I appreciate that. Christopher, you ready?
Hi, I'm ready.
Go for it.
So I'm the Site Reliability Engineering Alliance Leader for the Workforce Solutions Alliance here at Equifax, and I've been tasked with our FinOps practice here. So we do that through, and we want to ensure that technology is accurately forecasting their direct cloud spend and they can run their services within budget. So some of the ways we do this are to review the cloud costs and forecasts regularly. We identify mitigations for the most costly and common inefficiencies. We build a repository of standard practices. And also, in order to minimize overall costs, we're advocating and evangelizing optimization across the broader organization, right, to cut down on those indirect costs that we feel.
Nice. Good job. Thanks, Colin or Christopher. I appreciate it. We have
Sure.
one more, but Jansanita, I don't know if you're on if you've called in, because I don't see her listed. Jansanita. So we'll skip that. We'll try to catch you last time. But again, thank you guys so much. If you ever have an interest in sharing your pitch with us, just reach out to me and let me know. We're always looking for folks to do this. So big thanks to Joan, Colin, and Christopher for doing this. We really appreciate it. And now we will move on to the Technical Advisory Council update from Tracy.
Hi everybody.
Hey.
I was going to make this short, so I'm here to talk a little bit about the TAC. For those of you who have been in the calls before, there was a big survey taken, I guess 6 months ago at this point. These were some of the top questions that challenges that FinOps practitioners said that they were having. We've had working groups come out as a result of this. And I don't have much time, so we won't delve too deeply into this, but let's just go ahead. So these are the members of your Technical Advisory Council. I know that there's a lot of new members here. There's people who maybe don't know what it is the TAC does or who is on board. So here's everybody. Here's some pictures. You can also find this online. We also have this documented online. We have some open slots. We're going to be holding elections in just a couple of weeks. So if you, after my presentation, you feel like, hey, I want to be involved, please feel free to reach out to us. We're specifically looking for practitioners at this time for the most part. Go ahead, Stacey. So let's talk a little bit about what the TAC does. And I put this little joke comic up specifically for Joe Daly. I don't know if he's on the call, but it just sounded like something that he would really relate to. So they're the technical governing body of the FinOps Foundation. And what they really do is they're focused on the open source ecosystem, developing standardized practice, and kind of just oversight of what's going on. So oh no, I wasn't done. So they just oversee all projects. Some of the things that they work on are SIGs and working groups, and obviously hearing practitioner feedback. There's a website. These slides will be shared after this portion of the slides will be shared after, so we can share it. Go ahead now. Go ahead, Stacey. So how are SIGs and WGs, which are known as working groups, how do they tie into the TAC in the Technical Advisory Council? So a special interest group, it's a long-running group of individuals, and they have like a particular focus within FinOps that they hold really dear to their hearts. If you're in the Slack, these are the Slack channels for all of the current SIGs. They have charters and documentation all in GitHub if you want to learn a little bit more about any of these SIGs that exist. And then working groups are a short-term group that usually live within the special interest group to create a white paper focused around a very particular concern. So if you remember from the last member call, I was part of the shared cost working group. Right now, we're obviously going to hear from forecasting. One's in progress right now. There's a Google Cloud working group, also multi-cloud. There's a government one. There's one on container costs. And then we are always looking for things that you think we should document a little bit more. So if you have any ideas for working groups in the future, please feel free to send me a message in Slack. And go ahead, last slide. Talking as quickly as I can. So let's say you're new, or maybe you've been in the FinOps Foundation as a member for a while, and you're in Slack and you're not quite sure how to get more involved. So if you have maybe 4 or 6 weeks to work on a dedicated project, you think, hey, I want to work on a white paper. I really care about containers. I really care about government. Then a working group is probably for you. If, on the other hand, you have a little bit more time over a longer time scale to dedicate, if you care about containers, you can join a SIG. You can always join the Slack channels, but if you want to become really involved, then you can join the SIG officially. And if you have a lot of time and you're very invested and you really care and you really want to drive the conversation about best practices and standards, then you can think about running for one of the tech positions. And then I suggest you also join a working group and maybe also a SIG. You can join them all. But those are a couple of ways that you as a member, as a practitioner, can get involved. And that's a little bit about intro to SIGs in 4 minutes.
Thanks, Tracy. Good job. That was fast. All right, JR, do you want to ramp up this next one here?
Definitely. I can bring in this one. So one of the latest working groups we've launched is the cloud forecasting. If you're on the last call, we did an intro to this. Dieter from Roku and Melanie from CVS have been, if you hit the next slide there, we can see their smiling faces, have been working really hard. One of the cool things that this group did, not to preface too much, is they went and did a bunch of customer stories. I think they did what Dear Melanie, I think eight or nine of these, where we've got fantastic deep dives into forecasting. And what we're launching today is essentially the roll up of all that into this playbook. So excited to see your content. And then at the end here, we're going to hear a couple of those specific user stories, one from Scott at Chevron, and then a last minute entrant, Natalie at HSBC, is going to share hers as well. So Melanie and Dieter, looking forward to hearing what you put together.
Thanks, JR. For those of you that don't know, my name is Melanie Edwards. I'm currently a senior FinOps advisor at CVS. I come from a traditional finance background, but transitioned into IT after being a senior financial analyst over various IT departments. I've worked at numerous places such as Macy's, Comcast, and GE Aviation. So let's go ahead and dive into the next slide, how to address forecasting. So we wanted to, as we mentioned on our last summit, we wanted to address cloud forecasting in our playbook. These are some of the items we called out as a necessary when addressing cloud forecasting. So the first bullet we have here, the potential gap between engineers, finance, and procurement. I'm sure all of you can relate to this. Finance has financial reporting responsibilities. Procurement has accounting responsibilities. And procurement and finance need assistance from engineers to meet their obligations. Next slide. So then we come to the challenges with cloud forecasting. We probably have more challenges than answers. But so, you know, with the variable cloud spend, you know, that is a big component to why forecasting is tricky for cloud. Because cloud is so dynamic, cloud spend is difficult to predict. Engineers can start workloads at any time, which makes it difficult to know when to apply cost estimations. And usually there is no procurement process for the cloud, which could leave out key departments that should be involved with cloud costs. Billing and reporting, forecasting needs data and tools tailored to the business. Data has to be consistently available because of the variability in the data. Traditional finance teams find it challenging to understand cloud billing and reporting. Example being, you know, saying it wasn't tagged properly, and finance is like, what's a tag? So that happens a lot to me. But tagging and cost allocation, clearly define workloads through tagging or account structures. For example, we've talked to people who have one subscription per business unit. Well, this allows you to capture the cost and be able to have a better forecast. You need to be able to attribute the cost back to their owners at the end of the day. Breaking challenge into addressable parts. This is looking at the addressable parts in a bottoms-up format with tagging and cost allocation being the foundation. Then we address the challenge of communication between key departments, finance, IT, and procurement for the most part. Where will the accountability lie? Departments need to be held accountable to help facilitate an accurate forecast. Training and maturity. As we spoke about earlier, it is helpful for all departments involved to have a foundational knowledge of finance and cloud. Forecasting frequency, being able to forecast more often as possible leads to accuracy. Forecasting models, having a statistical model that can assist with your forecast is helpful. Forecasting accuracy, getting as close as possible with the variable usage costs is a challenge. So we go to cost optimization. Items such as right sizing, reserved instances, spot instances, and so on can impact your trend. There's no way to account for these things in the past. So these are just some of the addressable parts of the challenges. And then I will pass it off to Dieter for the next slides.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dieter Mason. I have been working with Melanie on this playbook here. The next item that we found is that we need to identify ownership and accountability. The roles on the left is something that we are all very aware of, and it's nothing special. But when it comes to forecasting, finance typically is the key contributor telling us how frequently they need to forecast, right? Because they have fiscal reporting responsibilities. So they will tell us frequency, let's say monthly, quarterly, annual. They will tell us the duration. Should we forecast until the end of the year? Does finance need a rolling window, 12-month forecast? Maybe they need a 3-year or a 5-year forecast. And finance will also tell us the quality of the forecast. You know, we have seen in our interviews anywhere between 2 and 20% forecast variance to actuals being acceptable. There's other roles, like for example, a term that we is a general term, special projects. Those are workloads that do not exist in the cloud yet. And as Melanie mentioned, you have to somehow estimate those workloads, right? They don't exist. You don't have historic trending. So you need either engineers or engineering leaders to help you with building those cost estimates and layering those into the forecasts. Next, please. So while there's different forecasting methodologies, they need to be aligned to the maturity where you currently are. There is no one size fits all, right? If you are in a crawl phase, doing spreadsheets and trend-based forecasting or making just a static forecast for the next fiscal year will be sufficient. As you get more comfortable with forecasting and move maybe into a walk phase, right, you will start seeing more tooling and statistical modeling being used. Possibly we'll see driver-based forecasting as well, where the engineering leaders or the engineers even need to give input into which business drivers affect what workloads. And typically this can be done through a mapping table of some sort and tags. And again, the special projects, those are projects that don't exist in the cloud yet. And then in the run phase, we see things like automated open and close windows. We are leveraging machine learning. We're having rolling forecasts. And using tools, let's say in the run phase, using spreadsheets won't work. It won't be sufficient. The same for being in the crawl phase. Trying to ask someone to use machine learning will be a little bit too much. That's it. I think we can move on to the member story.
Thank you, Dieter. Melanie. Scott, are you on the line now?
I am.
Excellent. Good to see you. Yeah, we'd love to hear about your forecasting stories there at ShareFund, where you've had challenges, what's worked.
Sure. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I put or if I can, I put a couple of slides together, or I can just talk to it.
Yep, should be all set. Where are you? I see palm trees in the background.
Yes, I am on vacation. We are in Palm Desert, California, at one of the Marriott resorts.
I'm just about 50
All right.
miles
can you see the slides?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
See if I can put this in presentation mode. Okay. All right. So for us, and I guess I'll start by saying I didn't get my slides corporate approved, so I really made these pretty generic. It's more about just talking about the practice and giving some ideas of concepts that we went through at Chevron. The key steps we have in our process are, kind of prepping the data and data integration, different forecasting options and choosing what would be a good fit for us. We implemented our solutions. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then, I'll show you guys some example numbers at the end. So in terms of integration and data prep, we are an Azure shop. And so you're going to see very Azure-focused solution here. But we bring in, and I'm picking up some background noise. Hopefully that's not me. But we pull the data in from Microsoft. We pull it into blob storage daily. We do extracts and transform our data for various business reasons in Azure Data Factory. We load all that transform data into Azure SQL database. We build our models, whether it be for reporting or forecasting in Azure analysis services, and ultimately our consumers within the company consume that all through Power BI. And one of the main reasons why we do things this way, the cloud providers have great cost management tools and reporting and forecasting, but not everybody has access to the cloud provider portals. Not everybody's familiar and used to consuming information there, but everybody, at least at our company, is used to consuming things through Power BI. So this is why we went down that route. As we went through our kind of idea selection process, there was a few things we thought of. Number one, just using general forecasting in Power BI. It wasn't really easy to implement. We couldn't customize it. We couldn't provide. It gave us a lot of limitations, so we decided not to do that. I think if we had no process at all before we started this, we would have gone the machine learning route. If you don't have anything you're trying to kind of fit a forecasting model into, then you may want to look at this route. If we didn't have anything, this is probably what we would have done. But as we looked at integrating it into our current process that we already had and the reporting that we were already producing, it turned out to be more work than it was worth. So we went with this exponential smoothing and using DAX to kind of build the model and then present it into Power BI. It gave us a lot of flexibility. We were able to implement it within the workloads that we already had, and it's worked out really well. So what is kind of Holt? So we have Holt's exponential smoothing. I will give you, you have some of the formulas here, but I would say Google it, and there's videos on the way to implement the formula. DAX is just a data analysis expression, lets you codify the formula, and so we have all of our historical cost data in our data lake. We run DAX with a smoothing formula against it, and it produces a nice forecast for us. So what does that forecast look like? The gray line here, you can kind of see are the actual monthly costs, and there's no dollars associated to this, but you can kind of get an idea around the trend in terms of how much the actual cost is versus how much the actuals, I'm sorry, are the orange line, and then the forecasting process is the gray line. And what's interesting is the
the process can't necessarily predict super accurately from, say, on the month-to-month basis. You can see kind of in the months 25, 26, 27, where the actual spend dipped a bit. This is, you know, earlier in the year where, you know, not as much work is ramped up. It was predicting a little bit more spend. But if you look at on the annual basis, it's pretty darn close. And so what we found in using this is it's a great way to you know, implement forecasting into our existing process. The consumer can slice and dice by business unit, by team, by service. I mean, there's so much flexibility, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. On a last note, I'll give you some of our KPIs. So I hold our forecasting process to a 5% current year, you know, plus or minus. So in January, I give a forecast for the year to our business leaders, and I need to be within 5% of that at year end. And then we also do a probably about an 18-month estimate. So I just gave an estimate for how much we're going to spend next year, and I need to be within plus or minus 10% of that. So that's it, JR.
Oh, Scott, that was really great. We actually had, we're going to have a few people share a little bit, and you had so much great content there. I think it's glad we had some people drop out. So thank you for that. We'll share this as much of that out as we can afterwards. If we can go back one slide there, Stacy. So we're going to have Drew Lowe from Hulu present, but he had a conflict, annual operating plan stuff happening apparently right now. So Natalie from HSBC just jumped on though and said she would love to share her story. So Natalie, do you mind sharing a little bit about how forecasting works for you there? Oh, I may have to unmute you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, JR. I was waving. Please unmute me. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'd love to share our very interesting journey, I'd say, that we've been through at HSBC. So for those of you that may not know, my name's Nasty Daly, and I am the COO for CTO Shared Services and Cloud globally at HSBC. And I also run the FinOps function for all of technology for all of our cloud spend. We manage upwards of around 150 million of spend, and it's across all the platforms. So I have Google, AWS, Azure, and also now AliCloud, which is the first platform to be implemented in Asia and China. So what was our forecasting journey like? So how do we forecast in the beginning? Not very well, I'd say. It was a real change and trend, a culture shock to many of our engineers as to start forecasting based on the variability of cloud and the way that you look at cloud spend as compared to on-prem. So our first thing was to look at who are the right people to do the forecasting for our cloud spend. And we actually agreed we have something called cloud leads that sit within each of those business lines, who are typically engineers, and they work very closely with my team, and they do the forecast. We forecast on a monthly cycle, and so we forecast every month, and we forecast production and development spend, and we do it at account level. So every single cloud initiative that we have has accounts for, whether it be dev, whether it be UAT, whether it be production. And the billing that we receive from each of those cloud vendors is at the account level and asset level within those accounts. So it's very, very detailed billing. And we do that reforecast every month. And we do that in a traditional finance sort of way, where we look at our LE, which is your actuals year to date and your rest of year forecast against certain budgets. And then what my team does, so this all feeds into my team, and then what my team does is then validates that forecast with our finance partners, so all my COO peers around the business lines, we then create all the MI and we play that back. So the actual forecasting is done by engineers, people who are leading those engineering teams, who understand the aim of the product or the implementation or the program, and therefore are better at predicting spend and usage. That said, we spent a long time training them up, getting them used to planning and forecasting cloud spend, and that was also done by my team. And also our cloud platform leads, but they are the ones who do the forecasting. They are closest to it, and then I roll that forecasting up and I validate that on a line by line level with all the my finance counterparts, and they do the affordability piece and validate whether or not these accounts and these programs can afford to ramp up many of the ways that they plan to. Now, prior to any account going live, we do a set of validations around finance. So we have to ensure that the projects are approved by the senior business leadership, and those accounts are also validated for affordability at that point. So there are a number of controls and checkpoints we have in the process to make sure before we even begin that those programs and projects are agreed, that they have benefit cases and outcomes, and that we support that onboarding process. We also had to come up with other roles within the whole forecasting process. So as part of our FinOps target operating model that my team and I led, we spent about 3 months thinking about how our existing ops roles and engineering roles need to change, and then how those roles interface with a new cloud-based function as different to the way the bank currently works. We did that, socialized that, and then got agreement, and we actually changed some of the role types within the business and within our technology to better underpin and support our forecasting process. Right now, now this has been a journey. I have summarized really quickly, but we definitely are within a 5% threshold of our forecast, which is amazing given the size and the spread. We are constantly growing in this area and having more and more individuals be part of that. We used to do this in Excel, believe it or not. And I used to have some really great Excel whizzes in my team, but it's not sustainable. Bills were 100 million lines long. You very quickly run out of even capacity in Excel if you wanted to do that. So we did then move to a tool, a billing and visualization tool, which is, I think, one of the top 3. And implemented that, and that was also a project and program run by myself on my team for the bank and all the GBGFs, which gives a GUI front end to all cloud spend across all of the platforms. So they see their data real time, account level, asset level, and also taking into account whatever tactics and tagging we may have put in place. That's a whole other piece of work that you need to think about, but it's important. At any one time, and that's been hugely successful and has also helped us with optimization. As I said, we do plan development and production. So we do plan, and also proofs of concepts. We forecast and manage the spend for all types and all stages. And we are constantly providing real-time MI through our tooling, but also management and leadership progress reports, etc. And that all comes from my team. We work very closely with the business lines and the cloud leads and all their appointed business managers and finance resources, but we are the custodians of that data centrally, and we provide that insight and guidance for the rest of the organization.
Natalie, this is fantastic, and I wonder if I can get you to continue some of this in the breakout room at the end. Oh no, you said you have to leave early, don't you?
Yeah, I do, but another time I'd be really happy to and spend a bit more time.
Just
I'm
also,
kind of whizzing through it.
To give you extra kudos, Natalie did this with like 8 minutes notice, so that's how good she is at this stuff. So thank you, Natalie.
Live and breathe it.
Appreciate you joining there. So for everybody who has, started to see how all this is coming together, we are dropping all this content into framework.finops.org, where this is actually becoming the new finops.org here shortly. And Andrew Nim, are you on the line? Can you share a little bit about what we're doing here and what people can expect to see and how they can contribute? May also need to be unmuted. 1 second here. Andrew, are you there? Nope. All right.
I am.
Andrew.
Hey,
Oh,
it
perfect.
just takes a sec. Yeah, your fancy Zoom. I needed to ask me if I asked for unmuting consent, which I appreciate. Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Nev. If you don't know me, I'm a contracting content strategist, former low-level Excel wizard as well. And today we'll do a quick run through of what you see here. I think this has been presented previously, right? Like the former iteration. So what you see now is a lot of the work that's being put in. I mean, much like any endeavor in life, it's iterative, right? Small incremental improvements are the way to win. And as of today, these are very huge ones. I mean, the whole point of this is to build a FinOps resource by FinOps practitioners for FinOps practitioners. It lets us live and breathe our open source ways as part of the greater Linux Foundation, and it allows any member super experienced or you know, new to the game a way to contribute. You know, we've borrowed a lot of the playbook pages from Mozilla with their developers network, Atlassian with their complete, you know, seemingly dominance of DevOps as of late. And it all starts with just creating these like resources for people to basically understand the discipline first. And that's what we want to do here. So whether it's, hey, I'm completely new and I need to understand the nuts and bolts, you head over to the framework. You start learning about the principles, the personas, the life cycles, capabilities, functions, KPIs to make sure you're on the right track towards success. If you're like, hey, you know what, I'm starting to get it, we're building our practice at work and I want to start sharing some stories, maybe there's a project you can contribute to. And within each of those projects, actually within every page on the site, we have this module that builds in user stories, because a part of this is, hey, we can tell you so much, right? Actually, not even me. I'm not that qualified to talk about FinOps, but my colleagues can. But there's only so much you want to hear top down. The awesome part is that we're making room for bottoms up stories. So you can contribute them. You might want to share the, actually, that's a good one, Jared, share, yeah. We're making usability improvements here and there. You may not see it in the engineers take action piece, but in like shared costs, and the upcoming ones, we've actually created a nice little module so that if your story is tagged a certain way, it flows into any relevant page on the site, which is really cool. Yeah, each page, other than the top-down ones, there are really easy ways to get involved. If you already have some GitHub chops, and you might as well, you just have to log in and make a contribution there. We are currently working on lower non-technical ways to do it as well. So maybe you're like, hey, you know, I don't want to use GitHub for XYZ reason. I want to make all my changes with like a Google Doc. Cool, we'll have a form for you to fill out. That'll basically have a bot make an issue on your behalf so that we can keep tracking all the ways to improve the site. Because the more feedback and input that we get, the better we can make this website for everyone. So we're really close to finally moving over. This is like, yeah, exciting times. We just need a little more polish, and then hopefully this becomes the new FinOps.org.
The cutover was supposed to happen this morning, but we ran into an SSL issue and we don't yet have dedicated help in those areas. So we're sorting it out. But thank you, Andrew, so much for the rundown on that. He's been a huge part in us figuring out the strategy on how to pull that all together. So running into the next section, ton of great content. One of the things, reminder for us for a little self-care. One of the things you asked us for was to give you better insights into the vendors who are joining and tooling and what those are doing. So again, we came into last month with all of these fantastic vendor members as a part of it. And they are both contributing to via the framework and working to certify against these programs. So you all can understand which vendors do what, how to map to the right ones. We're not going to tell you which ones are the best ones, but we'll help you understand in a consistent way what they do. And super excited to announce today the first of the big four firms who have joined us, which is Deloitte. Deloitte is starting to do a lot of work in this practice, has some fantastic leaders in the area that we're going to meet today, and is really building out, I think, what is, you know, what I think we need to see more of, which is sort of the executive level approach to the FinOps strategy. And one of the things we want to work with them on is how do we start to get that sort of talk track so we can do things like Joan talked about earlier at the beginning, you know, help get buy-on for these programs and help set them up properly. So wanted to welcome Rakinder, who is going to be joining our new governing board. Rakinder, do you mind introducing yourself and talking a little bit about what we're going to do, and we can get to your content?
Hi there. Can you hear me? I was on mute there for a second.
Yes. Got it.
Great, thanks, JR. Great beard, by the way.
we were joking in the prep call for this. I said, Rakinder is the guy who looks the least like his LinkedIn profile. So you need a new one, my friend.
Well, on behalf of, I guess, all of Deloitte, we're happy to be here. Happy to be part of the FinOps Foundation. A little bit about myself, for those that are interested. I've been in the consulting gig for 18 years. You can see from my LinkedIn there, I guess, spent some time in old high tech before joining Deloitte. With Deloitte, I spent a lot of time working with clients on tech transformation related initiatives. From an industry perspective, spend a lot of my time in banking, but also lead the cloud financial management practice for Deloitte across industries. So again, very happy to be here. I thought I'd share maybe just a little bit from what we're seeing from a market perspective in this space. When I take a look at clients that I work with, they kind of, there's a spectrum. You've got clients that are very mature in the cloud, and as a result of being there for a while, have their FinOps function, FinOps story capabilities built out very well. And then you've got other companies that are very nascent in their adoption of cloud and are basically starting from scratch and don't really have a good understanding of how they need to be managing cloud costs. And then you've got I'll call it a smaller number that are in the middle. But if I was to kind of draw a histogram, the fewest number would be in the most mature category, and the least mature would be the highest category. And so what you've got there is, then you can see the future is going to be a larger number of companies trying to figure out how to stand up their FinOps practices. And so what we at Deloitte are doing is really, preparing to enable our clients with the support that they're going to need to stand up these functions, to potentially operate them for them. So that's kind of, part of what we're seeing from an industry perspective.
Fantastic. And we've got some good slides we've got put together here on the content. I wanted to throw out, just for the group that understands, that the governing board is a distinct group from the TAC. So the TAC is the group that does the best practices that Tracy covered earlier. Rakinder's joining the team that essentially the money side of the organization that Stacy and I and Tracy and everybody work for, and Rob, and we're here to help support and enable the rest of the community. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of those team updates coming up. Thanks, Rakinder, for joining and being a part of this. But yeah, I would love to get into your content and hear your view on this space.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought I've generally covered most of this. I think most of the folks, from what I heard earlier, I think everybody's aware of kind of the challenges around CFM and how it's different than traditional IT financial management. This maturity concept kind of speaks a little bit to what I was talking about around, you've got, kind of three tranches of organizations out there, highly mature, kind of getting their feet wet, and then very, very nascent in terms of this space. And we really see an opportunity in those first two tranches to kind of serve our clients and help them get a jump start in this space. Mark, are you on? I was going to have Mark Steckel say a few words from his perspective and his experience.
Yeah, hey, I'm here. Thanks, JR, for unmuting me. So, yeah, Mark Steckel, just want to introduce myself. And I'm a specialist leader at Deloitte in our cloud strategy offering. And I'm currently working with Rakinder to help build out our cloud financial management offering. Relatively new joiner to Deloitte. I started in April. I've spent most of my career in financial services, and my last gig was at Deutsche Bank for about 13 years. And so I've spent most of my career in the IT financial management space. So doing different CFO, COO, technology business management roles. The last gig I had at DB was kind of running an infrastructure product model on Apptio. And we were just starting to move into the cloud. So we were putting some of our compute and database stuff in the cloud. And as we were doing that, what became pretty clear is that we would have to evolve our ITFM approach I kind of went into this thinking this is just another type of outsourcing deal, but as I got into it, I realized that that just wasn't the case, and we needed to rethink how we were managing some of this stuff. And I think most people on this call probably recognize this, but some of the concepts on this page, but things like the lines of demarcation between the finance team and the IT teams would need to become more flexible. How procurement and finance were involved and what we were doing would need to change. The way we were allocating our investment money to our IT teams, getting away from the annual cycle and then being more flexible in how we rebalance across teams in real time, was something we would all have to think about and learn. And it was quite a challenge to us, to rethink some of the things we've been doing for quite a long time. Things like reporting, getting away from the monthly cycle and acknowledging that we needed to look at this stuff more regularly. Also understanding that the variability that we were bringing to our business lines at the bank was great, and it's what they wanted, the ability to influence their bill quicker and see the results of some of their strategy and innovation taking place in their P&L, either from a cost reduction or otherwise, that we were opening ourselves up to some fairly significant risk that we weren't used to having. We'd have to deal with that. So I first became aware of FinOps probably about 1.5 years ago, maybe a little longer, but never really got deep into it at DB. I was excited to see like this organization and this community was talking about a lot of the things that we were living and struggling with in real time. So, I'm really excited to be at Deloitte and to be, part of getting involved in FinOps in a meaningful way and hopefully participating and contributing to its ongoing success. So really happy to be part of this. So nice to meet you all virtually.
Thanks, Mark and Rakinder. Yeah, looking forward to getting you plugged in more into conversations, and definitely glad to have you as part of this journey. Is there anything else you want to share on this slide, or did you cover most of it there? Oh, you're muted, Mark. Looks like we got it all. Well, so yeah, folks, if you want to connect to these guys, they're also now in Slack as well. And one of the things we're talking about is plugging them, as I said, into the FinOps for engineering FinOps for executive work group as well. So also wanted to share, and this is part of the vendor showcasing you asked us to do last time. We've got a bunch of new general members as well. Probably some names on here you recognize, and maybe some new ones. So we're gonna go through and do a 30-second intro for each of them. Of course, as usual, I put too much in the agenda, so we actually really are behind on time. So we'll put up the 30 seconds and start on Bailey from McKinsey. Welcome, Bailey.
Hey everyone, glad to be here. Can you hear me? I'm actually driving. Sorry about that. You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. So, hey, Bailey Caldwell. Hi everyone. Let's see, I only have a few seconds here. So spent 10 years at RightScale building cloud management platforms and joined McKinsey in November. Super excited to be part of the FinOps Foundation. I work in the Cloud by McKinsey practice, and I'm really excited to collaborate with all of you, and looking forward to meeting more of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bailey. Drive safe. After that, let's do Brian Adler from Flexera.
Hey, JR, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Adler, and I'm the Director of Cloud Market Strategy here at Flexera. And we recently joined, as JR mentioned, the FinOps Foundation as a vendor member. And as such, we have an offering in the FinOps space, and with that comes many years of experience with regard to cloud cost optimization. And sort of our goal in joining the foundation is to have sort of a symbiotic relationship, if you will, in that we want to be able to share our experiences and best practices with the community, as well as hear from you all on the FinOps struggles you guys are encountering and how you have been, or maybe not have been, able to surmount those challenges. So we're just getting our feet under us here at the foundation, but we look forward to contributing in the very near future. So thank you, JR, for the time.
Awesome, Brian. It's good to get you all in as a major vendor in the space as well. Jay Litke, are you there from Snow?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Hopefully it'll go better than the webinar. I tried to do a webinar with Snow yesterday. It didn't go so well to my internet, so hopefully this will go better the other way around.
I have beard envy because I had a COVID beard down to my breastbone, but I shaved it a month ago, and I regret it now. So nice to meet everybody. I'm Jay Litke. I am EVP of Cloud here at Snow Software. The reason we joined and my interest is really dual tracked. We have started adopting FinOps principles internally as a collaboration between finance and engineering as a company, so benefiting internally. Also have an interest because we're seeing an uptick in demand with our customers of trying to really assemble that total cost of cloud and hybrid. And what they're looking for is actually starting to bring in things like software licensing costs and SaaS costs, and trying to think about a whole more fulsome way of looking at the spend. So it's a sort of dual track interest, again, as a consumer of FinOps and now a vendor, positioning in FinOps as well. So thank you for the opportunity, JR.
Thanks, Jay. Welcome. All right, and next up we have Ilya, who is an old face in the FinOps world, who used to be at Lyft and a number of other companies doing FinOps, and now has started a company in the space. Ilya, are you on the line?
Not finding Ilya unless they've called in.
Might get him on the next one then.
Okay.
And then Stephen from Strategic Blue.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Super. Hi. Feel free to call me Steve-O, because everyone else does, because every company I work in has loads of Steves. My background, I used to make online computer games as a teenager, then ran hospitality businesses for years, so learned about actual proper business things, and then went back into technology, built out a DevOps function and practice in a company, and then realized I needed to learn about FinOps, joined Strategic Blue, who are FinOps specialists, who look at it with a trading background, which has been really interesting for me to learn. I'm really excited to join.
Welcome, Stephen.
Thanks.
And then I think we've got two more. We'll get back into all the awesome content that's coming up. We have Sebastian, I'm going to butcher your name, I'm sorry, from Core Stack.
Okay,
please,
so
please.
Hi, this is Sabah at
Sabah, sorry about that, I apologize.
Not a problem. This is Sabah, co-founder and CTO at CoStack. Have been working in cloud computing space for more than a decade now, well versed with AWS, Azure, and GCP. Have been solving governance challenges for enterprises, data centers, and managed service providers through CoStack, an AI-powered multi-cloud governance solution. Apart from CoStack, I'm one of the most valuable technology blogger at DZone, a Forbes technology member, and also a member and contributor of OpenStack. Excited to be part of FinOps Foundation. Looking forward to collaborate with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, and looking forward to hearing more about what you all do. I haven't looked at the product yet, but it sounds pretty interesting. And it looks like we've got Ilya back on the line. Ilya, you ready to go? Oh, you're gonna miss your chance on the second time too.
Hold on, I know I just texted him too, and I think that I'm spelling his name wrong. There we go. We got him. I'm gonna unmute him.
Okay, finally, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, my name is spelled wrong there for some reason. I don't know why. It is I-L-I-A and it's spelled with Y.
That was the problem on our end.
Yes, okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to transition from practitioner to vendor with CloudThread. We are cloud cost telemetry platform. Basically, we tackle cloud costs from engineering and providing unit cost metrics that are engineering focused, cost per query, cost per request. We bring experience from the companies like Electronic Arts, Lyft, Citrix, Freeletics to the community now.
Thank you, Ilya. It's odd to see. Years ago, I was on the vendor side of the fence and Ilya was on the customer side, and now it's reversed. So enjoy and congrats on the new venture. And Michael Kearns, Verticent, who actually joined a bit back but hasn't gotten to introduce themselves. Can you take us away with the last intro of the group before we get back into content?
You know, JR, I'm not seeing him on here, so unless he's called in, it doesn't look like he's online.
All right, we can do it toward the end if that works out. So thank you all for being a part of this journey with us. We're trying to figure out that amazing and sometimes challenge process of how we bring together the practitioners, the consultants, and the platforms into one group. And appreciate you all working through this process and being a part of it. We talked a little bit about the FinOps framework. One of the parts of this that is coming is going to be vendor profiles. Joe Daly previewed those on the last call, which is going to help you map the ecosystem of vendors and certified practitioners, certified platforms and service providers against what's out there. Very excited to announce today that we have just hired our fourth full-time people there on the top and our contractors on the bottom, hire to lead the framework and really lead our product process. And that person is Mr. Vasilio Markinastasakis. Vaz, are you on the line? Do you mind doing a quick intro?
Hey, yes, thanks for unmuting me, JR. Hey, everybody. You can just call me Vaz for obvious reasons. Thanks for the introduction, JR. Really happy to be joining the amazing team at the FinOps Foundation and also to work with and serve this FinOps community. I've had a variety of roles during my career, and I know we're short on time, so I'm going to go fast. Early on, I was fortunate to work as an infrastructure engineer building private clouds and also adopting AWS during those days when cloud was new, like really new. And through these experiences, I saw firsthand the challenges of cloud cost management and reconciling spend back to the business. Stumbled across this little Portland-based outfit called Cloudability, immediately recognized the value in what they were building, and I fell in love with their vision and, of course, the fantastic people there. Over the last few years, I've worked with some incredible customers, and together we developed and evolved cloud cost management best practices that we all now come to know as FinOps. I'm excited to continue that work with you all through the FinOps Foundation, and thanks, JR, for giving me a chance to introduce myself.
Yeah, Vaz, thank you so much for being a part of this. Literally from the beginning, I worked with Vaz 6 or 7 years ago as he was coming into the space, and he was a guy who's, I think, done this from the product perspective, from the services perspective, from the technical account management perspective. So the help and insights you'll bring to helping us get this framework over the line are going to be exciting. Also wanted to thank Eugene Kvastov. I don't know if he's on the line. He's one of our TAC members. He is Vaz's former boss, and I think Eugene was bummed to see him coming over, but also excited for him there. Eugene, you want to share any context on Vaz's transition? Nope. All right.
No, I was just getting unmuted.
Right.
Thanks, JR. And yeah, both bummed and excited for Vaz. I've only gotten a chance to work with him for less than 2 years now, but really looking forward to seeing the great stuff that Vaz does and raising the tide for all boats in our FinOps community here. A little bit bummed, and I do still have Vaz for I think a week or so. So let's not do the former boss thing quite yet.
We'll share the term. So Vaz is going to be spearheading, and he hasn't dug in yet, and he doesn't work for us yet, so I didn't ask him to go through this slide, but the FinOps Framework Working Group, which is really about helping us to define and push forward that framework. It's come slowly, I think, in the last 6 months. Eugene's been a big part of this. John McLaughlin from Cloud Health has been the TAC liaison. Mike Fuller from Atlassian and John Martinez from Palo Alto Networks have been helping push this forward. But this is really going to be the focus. This is the core of the FinOps product, if you will. John, I don't know if you're on the line as well, if you want to talk about as TAC liaison a bit about how we're looking at this and what's going to be coming with it.
Just waiting for that unmute to go through, JR. Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, obviously at the center of this practice is really what are the capabilities and the special interest group there, and then what framework do we define those capabilities under. So I'm overjoyed to see that Vaz is joining us to be able to really spearhead with all the knowledge that he's brought together to the market, and then obviously you all as practitioners, this is going to become the core that we build off of. So I can't imagine a better start for us to have this team together to figure it out.
Awesome. Thanks, John, for all your support and collaboration as well. So with that, and we have a quick transition over to the GCP working group. This is a group that kicked off last month and is really starting to get their feet under them. We had a good meeting, I think it was 2 days ago, with Kim and group. Kim, are you on the line? Can you talk through what's coming out of that group?
Yeah, hi, everybody. So the GCP working group met for the first time this week and really put together what we're planning to focus on. We divided into a couple of different work streams and set some goals for when we want to touch base next. So we do see this work group expanding beyond the GCP working group and into more of a look at how the FinOps content is balanced for representation across all of the cloud service providers. We're going to first focus on GCP. And what we're going to look at is, from a content perspective, we're going to look at the FinOps practitioner course materials and exam. There's a work stream that's going to work on creating a taxonomy and glossary of terms across all of the different cloud service providers. They are going to, Google's going to help us with a tools matrix to help us understand what FinOps tooling is available for GCP consumers. And then Google has a white paper that they have in draft, and this team is going to review that white paper and provide some input so that they can get that published. So we've started meeting. We have the subgroups formed, and if you want to participate, I think Tracy put some information in the chat, and we'll probably put something out in Slack on how to come and participate. We're going to meet and follow up the week of June 21st. So if you're interested in joining us, come join us. And then we will move into Azure once we get in through the GCP information.
Are you going to tackle Oracle and Alibaba and all the others after that? Or do you think the terms will normalize well across?
I don't know, we'll see.
I love this body of work.
One step at a time, right?
There we go. There we go. So much that we found as we were, doing the early research and definition on the FinOps work was just about getting a common lexicon, right, between teams and between different parts of the organization that weren't used to working together. And this is a great next step with that. As we started to have more people come in who are Azure and GCP users, we realized there was so much just AWS centric terminology in there. So really good to look to see where we can normalize that and then also expand the concept. So thank you, Kim, for your efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And the other working group we wanted to talk about is the containers one. I'm going to stop my screen share and restart it here because I think slides just got added on this. Do we have Bala, Eugene, and or Jay on the line to talk about what's happening here?
Yeah, I think just waiting for the unmute to go through. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Stacy. Really quickly, I know we're tight on time. The Special Interest Group for Containers has produced some output. There is a white paper, but we're trying to further that. And the mission here is really to give organizations and the community the content and information needed to be confident in how you manage the financial aspects of containers, manage and optimize, and really do so in more bite-sized chunks, informational pieces, things like that. So for that reason, we've kicked off the working group, which Bala is leading and Jay is coming on the practitioner side. And I'll just pass it to Bala and Jay really quickly to say a few words and encourage some more participation here. I'm really looking forward to seeing the output of this group.
Sure. Hey, thanks, Eugene. A quick intro, I'm a product manager with Aptio and own the cost management optimization feature in the container space. So adding on to Eugene's update, the goal for us as a working group is to bring awareness to the ever-evolving container space by creating contents that help organizations manage all aspects of the container cost management and optimization confidently from a FinOps lens. So specifically for the content creation, we are looking at different mediums like white papers, blogs, demo videos, etc. on the container-specific topics, as well as creating a best practice documentation from some of the customer success stories. So for the core content, the working group would collaborate to define the common problem areas and the existing challenges and would contribute contents to it. Some example topics are, what does a tagging or allocation model look like? What does a proper chargeback looks like? What's idle? How should the different types of overhead be accounted for? Lots of great contents coming up. We are looking for volunteers, specifically FinOps practitioners in the working group. If interested to join and be a part of this group and contribute contents, please to reach out to us on the container Slack channel and FinOps. Thanks.
And just a question for you too, since I know this group's a little bit different than some of the others we've done, where they're not starting from scratch. What do you see as wanting to update in this, existing container cost workbook? Are there new themes, or was this one just not complete enough as it was the first one we did?
Eugene, I can take it. So what we have done is we kind of are consolidating a lot of the problem spaces within the working group right now, JR. So once we actually have that feedback from the working group, we want to like kind of like, send out a survey and see like what the other members or other folks in the container space do see actually, right? We want to rank that problem space and then start creating content. Some of them are already existing. Some could be like updated and some could be new. So that's where we are looking at.
That seems spot on. Yeah, and this I love this working group because as you see from the makeup of members in it, we've got a great mix of vendors as well as practitioners, and this is kind of what we go for with this. We get the practitioner stories, get the vendor insights, and then the TAC essentially pulls this all in and makes sure that they agree with it before it's ratified, as I think the term Eugene used when we were talking yesterday, into best practice. So exciting to see what comes out of that. And those are the working group updates. So the next two things we have, and I think we're actually fairly on schedule. Thank you everybody for your brevity, are two chunks of content here. One is a preview into what is going to be an upcoming curriculum for us, which is how to get engineers to take action by Mr. Rob Martin. And then we're going to do a fireside chat with Rob and a gentleman named Anthony Tambasco from NBC Universal on the TCO of cloud. Rob is requesting ability to control my screen. I hit the button. Did that work, Rob?
Well, let's see here.
Please don't load up my email or texts. Okay.
Hey, there we go. All right. Okay, thank you, JR. I am Rob Martin. I didn't introduce myself in the last meeting, but I was introduced because I was still working for somebody else. But I am extremely happy to be back at home at the FinOps Foundation as the Director of Learning. So many of you have seen me in my bookshelves behind me in the FinOps Certified Practitioner course, the self-paced course, and other presentations. So I'm happy to have been able to help present that a lot of times. I think I'm on 27 or 28 at this point. And formerly, I was at AWS, at Apptio, at Cloudability, Smartronics, which is a big reseller of cloud, and then before that with the Department of Justice and Accenture, which is why I'm one of two members of the FinOps team who is black and white in our photographs. I'm glad we're back on schedule because as you know, as those of you who know me know, if you ask me for a sentence, you'll get a paragraph. My wife says I really should work in a 1,000-story building because my elevator pitch is about 10 minutes long. So I'm going to keep this moving as best I can. There we go. But I'll be speeding through this for those of you who are really interested in getting into the meat of the engineering course. Many of you are familiar with the FinOps practitioner course, which has an exam. This is an example of the training. This FinOps for Engineers course is a training that is persona-based. So it's not going to have an exam or a certification with it, but it's designed to be information that's lighter weight for a specific persona. And that, in this case, we're going to talk about engineers. And so I'll talk a little bit more about the others that are coming at the end. And it was interesting as we were putting this course together that we, the very first thing on the list was getting engineers to take action. But in fact, engineers are not just needed for that. They're really needed for, dealing with shared costs, forecasting, reducing waste, full allocation of resources, container costs, all the things we've heard about from many of the other presenters on the meeting today. So we're needing to really integrate the engineering teams, our DevOps teams, our operations teams into the FinOps process in a much more detailed and collaborative way. And so the class will be for engineers to help them understand a little bit more about FinOps and about how they can participate in that process and take action, become a part of the business decision-making that they'll need to do. This is, here we go. So compared to models that we've used in the past, the cloud is essentially providing us with an unlimited salad bar of service, right? We have all of those services and features are there to serve us. And so we're encouraged to innovate and to experiment and to move our systems to the cloud quickly, build new features and launch more things to deliver value to our customers. And oftentimes these services are hard to determine or complex to work out. The price of an individual compute instance might be relatively simple to look up, but the things that go along with that in terms of data transfer and security and backup storage and virtual services around that may not be as easy to understand. And ironically, in the face of all this bounty that we have in front of us in the different cloud offerings, our most cost-effective course of action is always to architect and design and build in as small a footprint as possible. So back when you had a TRS-80 with 4K of memory, you had no choice but to build efficiently if you wanted something to run. But in the cloud, we also have to be really, really espousing those disciplines as an engineering team, even when we have availability of machines with 24 terabytes of RAM out there. The reasons that we need to go into this, we need to have this responsibility. We have to have this information, this responsibility, because we're responsible as engineers for what we run in the cloud. Engineers' actions are directly driving success or failure of organizations, and because we're delivering so much more of our value to customers digitally. And so we're entrusted with that ability to launch, to commit our company to spending. And with that, we've got to have the knowledge and the terminology and the examples to work with the finance groups, with the product groups, to do things more efficiently. Sorry. Okay. So in the course, first we will we'll level set. And so this course, again, is designed to be taken in place of a FinOps practitioner course. So engineers may or may not be familiar with the broader context of FinOps. So we'll talk a lot about some of the same things we talk about in FinOps certified practitioner class. How, what is FinOps? How are the FinOps principles applied to engineers' roles? And really, how is the DevOps and public cloud changed engineers' roles and their responsibilities? We'll then get into, there we go. We'll then get into and expand upon some of the business cases. One of the classic business cases talked about in the FinOps book. Rich Hoyer is going to be presenting on the finance concepts or finance for engineers, where we'll dive into a lot of these kind of lexicon questions or the vocabulary questions about how to communicate more effectively between teams, and really looking at not only concepts like depreciation, amortization, cost of goods sold, but really how do those things impact, how do those directly relate to the things that the engineering teams need to do each day. When you know that the cost of what you're building and the cost of what you're running is a cost of goods sold, that becomes a part of the equation for calculating how much margin your company is making. You have a direct link to sort of the financial success or of your company. And so we'll talk about a lot of these terms that become useful for our engineers to be able to use. There we go. And so with thanks, we're going to be building in the course, and this is something we'll do in the training overall. We've heard a lot about the framework, or a couple times about the framework in today's call. Getting the content that we have about how to do FinOps effectively into our framework will be the key to developing and delivering this good training experience as well. We'll be pulling from that as we've pulled here, with thanks to Mike Bradbury and Tracy Rossler and the others in the engineering teams taking action working group. We'll be pulling information from there to be able to work to show how engineers are involved in the governance changes and the culture changes of the business, and how engineering teams can work up the stack from doing the routine aspects of tagging things and that sort of thing, but also working up to becoming a part of the collaborative business decision making that's going on in the company. We want engineering teams to be as involved in that as possible. Because a lot of the exercise, a lot of the effort that engineering teams have been presented with so far has been about optimizing. And so optimizing for cost efficiency is good, but governing for cost efficiency can be better. Designing for cost efficiency can be even better than that. But all of these things have challenges, right? Optimizing is in many cases technical debt or rework. Governance can help us avoid some of that, but can also stand in the way of innovation and speed. Designing for cost efficiency is great, amazing outcomes from being able to do that, but that takes specialized skill, and that's not always in the reach of every team or every workload. And so we will be talking about a lot of the things that the engineering teams and engineers themselves can do to really function on that. And I'm not going to get into a lot of these details in here. I just, for the sake of time, I will be in the breakout, one of the breakout rooms after, where we'll be able to talk about any of these things that are interesting to you all, and sort of dive into these. But in the course, we will be going through the functions and the capabilities that we talk about in FinOps, and how engineering teams sort of cycling those or targeting those specifically at the engineering teams. A few of them being the ones that sort of on the face of them look very financy, right? Cost allocation, cost sharing, many business cases, forecasting, and KPIs. All topics we heard about in the sessions today, where the presenters were sort of unanimously saying these are things we need to get engineers engaged on. And so this class will be showing engineers or providing engineers with examples, with templates in many cases, for how to get involved in these processes, which they may not have been as involved in the past. They may get much more contact with other groups in their organizations. And so we'll last look at sort of the integration parts of this, of how do we integrate into our process. The engineering teams will bring their own motivations to the FinOps journey, as well as finance teams and product teams. And so we want to have give the engineers a voice as well to talk about how to get the reporting that they need, how to get the integration and the automation that they need, how to get involved in policy and strategy, and when to do those sorts of things, so that that interaction between the different teams can be as effective as possible. So that was my very short FinOps for engineering overview. Is that good? Everybody happy with that? Okay. I have just a couple of housekeeping things that I wanted to talk about as well. In terms of FinOps learning, so I'm, again, the learning guy. We've got a couple of new things coming up. And so the one, if you're familiar with the Certified Practitioner program, you may have been waiting for a long time to hear about the Certified Associate program. I'm super happy to say that is now underway actively, and it will be as you see, it's a program, not a class. There will be a class that is the FinOps Certified Associate, but the program itself will be a multi-week curriculum. It's going to involve things like group projects, service requirements, content requirements. So asking you to help contribute to the FinOps content or refresh or enhance it, and some mentor guided activities as well. So if you are extremely interested in doing this, there will be extra work, there will be assignments, there will be cost. But if you're extremely interested in being in the inaugural class for FOCA, that is something that you can reach out to me directly to do, and that's going to be a very small group, understandably. So please be patient. Secondly, we are launching a whole series of these persona-based trainings. So in addition to the engineering course that we just talked about, we'll also be planning to do one probably for executives, for finance, for procurement, or for product teams. And actually, this was a poll that we wanted to do real quickly. If you have
should be up on the screen now. Yep.
There we go. It's on screen now. So if you wouldn't mind voting on this, it would give us some good information about what persona-based training should we do next if we were moving on from engineers and wanted to do another kind of dedicated or focused training on one of the other groups.
Oh no, Rob, this is going counter to what we had planned.
You know what? I'll do whatever the people say. I'm happy.
I'm just going to say this is going exactly like I had planned.
Yeah, it's true. I'm going back to the original.
Yeah. And if we have something on here that's not on here, that's specialized, I know the government SIG is just getting warmed, or the government working group, sorry, is just getting warmed up. They're interested in government procurement. But if there are other things, please post those in the members calls section. And
you can't see the results of the poll. Sorry, we're all sitting here watching it and then realize that we're co-hosts. So I'm going to end the poll. About 56% of you voted. I'm going to screenshot this because we learned last time that Zoom does not always share this. End poll. And so I hope you can now see it. Oh no, share results. One more button. All right. FinOps for Finance, which was Stacy and my original plan going into the year, but then the State of FinOps survey told us that executives and engineers need to come first, and then possibly executives. So we'll have to go back and look at the best way to tackle this. Hey, just wanted to throw out also, Rob, and before we get into the content with Anthony, Yeah, I love this idea of the associate program not as a 10-hour sit on your butt and like a Zoom course. This whole cohort idea, I think, is what we're going for. You get to work with the same people over time, develop relationships, dip in and out. I think it's a great new format addition, and I'm glad you're taking it to the next level.
Yep. Okay, so and then one last pitch for FinOps Certified Practitioner. An interesting note here. We will be changing it, or we're planning to do a fairly significant revamp of FinOps Certified Practitioner at the end of this year. And we'll be changing the way that we deliver that to also go with this cohort model. I'm going to stop sharing that and close that. There we go. So we'll be moving that to sort of a cohort model as well, probably starting in the beginning of next year. So we are planning to do, these are the next 2 classes that will be in person presented, one with Ashley Hermako, who I've presented with before and love her delivery on that, and one with Ben DeMora, who is also a fantastic instructor for this class. We will be doing these through December. And I have a couple of requests here. If you are in a time zone that doesn't normally get a FinOps in-person class, and you're really interested in doing the class before the end of this year in a particular month, please DM me directly or throw that into the member calls channel, and we'll be doing these through then. So prices will probably be going up a little bit in the new version, and it'll be less of the presented version and more of a cohort version. So if you're interested in doing the course in person between now and the end of the year, please go for that.
Well, we said no sales pitches, and you're like giving a hard close on prices. Come on.
Yeah, sorry, my new boss is kind of a.
Hey, Rob, one thing I didn't get in there, and I want to make sure that call it out that you just did too, was you updated the exam. So we used to have a lot of those really confusing questions. It said pick 2, pick 3, and there's no way you could get partial credit. So Rob has gone through and really tried to make sure that, well, there's only one answer for each one of the questions. And also the questions now are not AWS specific, they're multi-cloud. So thanks a lot, Rob, for getting that updated, and that's live now for folks.
Yeah, and thanks to Kim and the GCP working group for reviewing those, and a number of other people who have been involved in reviewing those questions with me. That's been a big help, and it's much, I think, much more clear now. So if you struggled with the test in the past, or if you didn't take the test because you heard it was too hard, go for it now. All right, on to our next little section. This is one of our fireside chats, and I wanted to introduce Anthony Tabasco, who is a longtime member of the foundation, has been somebody I've listened to on these calls for many minutes, even at the very beginning. Anthony comes to FinOps, as you can see, through more of a procurement and business analyst track, rather than coming from IT or from traditional finance, and has been with in his role at Comcast for the last 3 years, and has recently moved over to NBC Universal, where he's fixing the problem with my access to watching Premier League games on Peacock whenever I want to. And wanted to introduce Anthony and say and give him a chance to talk a little bit about the TCO of operating cloud. And I'll do the advancement. There we go. And there we go.
Just talking on mute there. Thanks for that intro there, Rob. So as mentioned, really, want to talk about what is the total cost of running public cloud, and then also talk about maybe measuring that cost and optimizing that cost very quickly at a high level. And I do believe some of the stuff we talk about is more present within large organizations or enterprise organizations, non-traditional technology companies, government companies, very large, that can be segmented and have multiple businesses. Right, but if you're going to public cloud and you really want to achieve the benefits of public cloud, of in terms of that increase in agility, time to market, and there's a lot that your organization has to do, right? There's network connectivity strategy. How do you do access, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to deploy quickly in the cloud if my organization has me filling out Jira tickets for access and then network connections and firewall connections, right? Then 6 months down the road, I still don't have my application deployed. Right, so there's a lot that goes into being successful. within the public cloud. And, I like to, think of that as, like Amazon has the well-architected framework, right? Organizations have the well-operated framework. And how do you build that ecosystem so that people are successful within the cloud? And you could go to the next slide.
Anthony, you're going to trademark the well-operating framework. I think that's.
Yeah. And then, just like, we have the FinOps framework with Psycho in terms of you want to inform, optimize, and then operate, right? I think you kind of take that same mindset to this total cost, right? So like, if you're looking at your cloud bill, which has your cloud usage and some of your waste and the enterprise support, maybe some cloud specific tools in that, like that's your cloud bill. But then there's other costs on top of that needs to be measured and transparent to the business, right? So that is the things, like I said, if you have network connectivity to on-prem, what is your cloud labor look like? Third-party security tooling, third-party FinOps tooling, things like that, right? That then really makes up what your total public cloud cost is. And then once you have that and it's transparent, you can look at that, optimizing it, right, and see maybe it makes sense to consolidate things. Maybe I have tools that are very duplicative of each other. Like maybe I'm running native cloud provider tools that are also the same as the third-party security tools I have. So you need to look at those, evaluate those, and see where you can remove the duplication and take advantage of economies of scale within your organization to reduce that operating costs, which I like to refer to as your cloud tax, right? Like the tax you put on your organization of running in the cloud, and try to reduce that and always monitor it and improve it over time.
It's interesting because there's a real parallel that I see here between the kind of things that we put into the business case to move to cloud in the first place, right? Where you say, I've got to take into account the labor savings and the on-premises security systems and the the on-premises the utilities and rent and things like that. That do the same kind of a thing on the inbound side, but this is where you need to understand sort of what you expect to save in all areas to get to a TCO of the value of cloud. This is doing it actually as a comparison of what you're spending in cloud, as well as and then identifying the opportunities to decrease those things as you go. So it's a nice parallel to sort of the cloud value framework approach to moving to the migration business case actually in cloud already.
Yeah, exactly right. And working on a lot of those migration cases and with people as well. And you look at it, a lot of times you focus on like that cloud cost of that data center cost or the racking and stacking or those traditional system admins. But don't want people to lose track of like I go public cloud and cloud labor doesn't exist anymore, right? Because you still don't you still need a cloud team, a cloud center of excellence, and that ecosystem. It just looks different. Right, so maybe people transition to different roles. You have different functions within in that space, and then still important to capture what that course looks like at the end of the day.
It's probably a good plug for the shared cost working group as well, because this is to calculate these shared costs. What's your shared cost of network or your shared cost of enterprise support? That's an important aspect to be able to get right, to be able to calculate this kind of a framework on an application basis.
Yeah, exactly, right. And this course, as well as those shared courses and these other courses, it should be transparent to the cloud teams as well in terms of like, hey, this is the real cost of you going to the cloud. And it also helps with the transparency of maybe forecasting, like a large cloud workload that needs network connectivity. And then you know that like, hey, I'm going to need to build out direct connect links or express routes ahead of time. Right, so just like you said, providing that full transparency and the shared costs and shared services throughout the teams.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, sort of an operating KPI for what you need to add to any new system or new environment that you're setting up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like to even think of like this, the cloud operation cost of cloud tax as like a cloud team or cloud COE's KPI. Right, like I should be able to say like, hey, today this is 15% of the cost, and this is the benefits the outcomes of the benefits we're providing, by doing this 15% tax up. And these are the ways that we're looking to optimize it, or these are the ways I'm going to increase the cost, but I'm adding benefits X, Y, and Z, Y increase in cost. So I also think that this cloud operating percentage or tax is something that you can use as your KPI or value metric for CCOE centralized cloud organization as well.
That's great. Yeah, this is a part of this is a big thing that we want to include in the engineering course too, to get engineers to be familiar with this stuff, because we don't want them just to focus on that cloud usage or on the cloud bill either. We create this this kind of overall expectation of cost. It's better for everybody.
Sure.
That's very cool. Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you.
Okay, I think JR, back to you.
Excellent. We're not going to do that poll there. We're going to go straight to the breakouts. Anthony and Rob, appreciate that conversation. Very interesting stuff. So the breakouts, reminder on the code of conduct. We want you to contribute first and foremost, but also remember, this is for everybody to come together to have conversations. So share your thoughts and then let other people talk. Sometimes I can do this, and luckily I've got controls of Zoom. I can just talk and not let anybody else talk. We're asking people to, keep their contribution short and pointed in there, but also please speak up with your thoughts. Please be inclusive of others. Don't talk badly about anybody. Don't exclude anybody. Leave room. Be respectful. And finally, let's avoid sales pitches, right? So we're doing things like vendor showcases now because you all wanted to hear what people are doing, and we encourage people to talk about what they're doing. But don't get in there and say, hey, you got to use my service for this, or you got to use my platform for that, or this is the best. Share knowledge, share best practices. The little bit at the bottom, the fine print, everybody's least favorite part, the antitrust portion, which says, please do not discuss any confidential information, up to and including any confidential pricing programs oops, sorry, lost the screen share. There we go. Don't discuss any confidential pricing programs that you may have with any vendor, or how to negotiate with a vendor. These things in the US are actually illegal to do. So please don't do any of those things. Last bit there, I will bring the screen.
Yeah, we're not seeing your screen. Yeah.
Yep, realized that happened. It said the host stopped my screen sharing, and I thought I was the host.
Well, I made some co-hosts up there, so maybe.
There we go. One of you all tried to kill my screen share. So with that, we'll bring up the list of the actual breakouts here on the screen.
Hey, while JR's doing that, I just posted something in the Slack channel. If anybody's been wanting to take a self-paced training, the first 5 people to use that link get a free one. So,
oh, fun. Go get that fast.
That members only channel. So you have to go to the members only channel or the member call channel in Slack and check that out. All right.
So here are the 5 breakout rooms. We've got leaders in each of these that covered a lot of the content. We're going to give you about 22, 23 minutes in here, probably. We are going to record these.